What's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking into our latest TDR Trade to Black podcast presented by Flowhub Midweek. I am your host, Shad Dales. As I said, Anthony Varrell going to come on in just a moment. We got GTI's numbers that are going to be coming down in just a moment. So we'll break those down in our second segment. So all eyes on GTI, the biggest company in the space, and this will be telling us to where this earnings season is headed. As well, big news yesterday, a new committee formed by Glasshouse Brands. We're going to have CEO Kyle Kazan on to talk about this, along with Chief Marketing Officer of Heineken USA, Allison Payne, to understand what this committee is all about. And more importantly, especially from Allison's standpoint, what big alcohol is thinking of the cannabis industry as we look here in 2026 and moving forward. So let's get into it here on a Wednesday. Good to see you, my friend. How are things?
Good. 1 year ago today, I was waiting for a baby to get here.
She turns one today?
Birthday's tomorrow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Kind of a crazy feeling. She's speaking English and Spanish already, which is kind of nuts.
She's speaking Spanish?
Yeah, my nanny speaks Spanish, so she's
that's incredible.
Up por favor and a couple other words. But no, aside from that, I hate to say it, but it was a typical day on the tape in cannabis land.
I know.
MSOX, I think, was up like 8% intraday, and then it ended red. In MSO, it finished the day up 2%. So it faded into the close, but
we see that every day.
It's every day. It's every day. I mean, I'm glad that we have Kyle and Allison on to talk really kind of just a fundamental and qualitative conversation about some perspectives about the industry and what's going on, and not talking about really the capital markets until we get into GTI's earnings, which for everybody, just a reminder, there will not be a conference call for Green Thumb, as they, in Ben's unique fashion, decided to retire having conference calls. So looking forward to Kim's tomorrow when Trulieve reports.
Did you see this on Twitter? Sources confirm the SEC has launched a formal investigation into Jane Street over alleged manipulative trading practices in U.S. equities and crypto-linked products. Just saw Jungle Java's feed on that. So surprise. What else is new?
Well, the 10 o'clock algo that shows up and has been putting a lid on Bitcoin and Ethereum has magically stopped on Monday once that inquiry was made public. So it's pretty interesting coincidence to say the least. But I mean, we see the algos come in on the cannabis tape all the time. There's a bunch that just push and suppress price down and see a bunch of funky action. But like I said, there's no point in really gravitating or dwelling on that because there's nothing we can do about it right now. And until we get uplisting and fundamental change, it's just going to be the same old thing. And luckily for us, I mean, the companies from a fundamental perspective keep getting better.
I think that's the big thing for me is, if we get a rescheduling announcement, it's great, but what are in the details of that? And I know I was pushing Mark a little bit yesterday, but we really need some sort of direction on uplisting. So we will remain to be seen, but that is the big thing that I think a lot of us are going to be watching closely. But we're going to get into our first segment here in our first interview. But before we do that, a quick reminder, Trade to Black is presented by Flowhub. If you're a serious cannabis operator, you already know margins are tight, compliance is complex, and execution matters. And that's exactly why so many leading dispensaries across the country are relying on Flowhub. They give you real-time inventory visibility, built-in compliance reporting, integrated payments, and powerful analytics, all in one streamlined platform. No patchwork systems, no manual workarounds. So whether you're scaling one location or 5 or a multi-state operator, they help you move faster, stay compliant, and protect your bottom line. So if you're ready to operate smarter, book a demo now by logging on to flowhub.com. All right, let's get in to our first segment. And we saw the news yesterday, and it was Glasshouse who announced the formation of the Product Expansion Committee. And with that, let's welcome in their CEO, Kyle Kazan, along with committee member and Chief Marketing Officer of Heineken USA, Allison Payne. First time to the podcast. Yes. Good to see all of you. And obviously some great news. But Kyle, I'll begin with you. Why was this committee designed, I guess, to address this right now? What's behind all this? And what's the excitement, I think, internally that you're wanting to make this decision and what we can expect moving forward?
So number one, thank you, Shad. Thank you, Anthony, for having me back on your show. So thrilled that Allison could take some time out of her busy schedule to join as well. And give your little one a Feliz Cumpleaños from California. So that's very cool. So want to with all the things that we're expecting, we're still expecting a rescheduling to a Schedule 3. We don't see it as an if, we see it as a when. And so with that, Glass House, as we've talked about on some of your previous shows, we were built for legalization. And so to us, this is the step that we've been waiting for. And so when Coach Raveling passed away last year, one of our board members, it opened up a board seat. And so we thought, with the world heading where we thought it would be heading, we hired a premier headhunter in Flower Hire. And I said, I want to go to the 15 largest alcohol companies worldwide.
Okay.
And I would like someone in their C-suite, and I'd like somebody in marketing, because that was what Coach brought to us, being Nike International Basketball. But I thought, wow, I think the world is here. And I will tell you, we heard back from 10. We were still getting more. 5 were interested. We were very lucky to meet Allison Payne. We got to know Allison. She flew out to Los Angeles, met with Graham, met with me, and we did a deep dive on her. And we just said, she's everything that we could hope for in a board member as Cannabis and Glass House starts entering this new phase of the world. And so as part of that, we said twofold, let's form a committee. We asked Allison, which was hard because I told her we only have so many meetings in one committee, and all of a sudden Miss Bondi and President Trump start throwing us. And I go, by the way, can I get you for once a week? Can I get you for some more? She has been more than gracious, has only said yes. I feel so happy to have her lean in with me that we formed a committee with Allison, Jay Nichols, who, if you look him up, you're going to see he is more than real. He has been CEO of a company on a major exchange, tied into so many things. And Jocelyn Rosenwald, who really knows cannabis. So the 3 of them joined the committee, and we have Graham, myself, Ben Vega, our counsel, and our CFO. So we have the entire C-suite except for our CRO. And we are basically looking at the options for pharmaceuticals. We're looking at for bombs, elixirs. We're looking at it for drinks. And we wanted to put the press release out there because we know so many companies in those industries are trying to figure out how to play cannabis, that we wanted to basically say, hey, we're over here. This is how you contact us. We're here, by the way, and the head of our IR, John DeCourcy, who's be the main contact to flood in. And so basically that was it. And Allison has given some great perspective. And I know everybody in cannabis is going to hear. Allison, from your perspective, what do you think of cannabis?
That's totally it. That's a big question that a lot of us want to know. Like, what is big alcohol thinking of the cannabis space right now? Because when we look at data, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's showing that alcohol consumption, I should say, is down. Cannabis consumption is up. And a lot of these, historic industries that have been around a long time, they're going through a major change. And it's not just with this space, it's across all spectrums. But how are they viewing the cannabis space right now, Allison?
Yeah, look, I think, we have looked, as obviously leading in beer, we look at what we consider our competitive set, right? And we say that consumers aren't necessarily drinking less, they're drinking different.
Okay.
And you'll see rises in categories like the, cannabis beverages, hemp-derived beverages, growth there for sure. And also non-alc beverages is a massive category too. So people are it's obviously still socializing in different ways. So I think it's what does big big alcoholic beverage firms think of it? I think they've got a very much watching eye on the development there. They see that there's growth. I think the challenge that it's not federally, legal means that big alcohol can't see a way to scale yet, but that's not that it won't happen, right? So that's sort of, I think it's a watching brief, I would say. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask that. I was actually going to ask that and kind of allude to that. I mean, we've seen hemp beverages explode in certain markets. I mean, they are booming. If you go to a grocer in Florida, they are sitting right next to the High Noons on the shelf.
Yeah.
From your perspective, is it kind of, I don't want to say a worst case scenario, and kind of being able to evaluate and figure out that product market fit because the industry was essentially built, not scaled, but occurring in an unregulated fashion to where you don't really know where it's going to go. It's kind of just evolving right now naturally, and regulators have to really try to pick up.
That's true, because it is quite unregulated. And we believe in absolute responsible consumption. So
yes.
And the alcohol firms have come from a place of heavy regulation. And I think that's the sense that this is where it should go. For safety of consumers, they know what they're getting. So that would be, I think, where the bigger alcohol firms would be coming from, which would rather see it being regulated the way that that alcohol is. And then we play by the same rules. Marketing, innovation, etc., is very tightly controlled. Yeah.
And I guess the other question that I've been curious on, because I've looked at a lot of the brands. We actually had a conversation yesterday relating to Red Bull, if they would call it Green Bull. And I was like, well, Red Bull gives you wings kind of plays into THC if they were to go down that vertical. From just an overall marketing and strategic standpoint, let's say for a big alcohol brand, are you looking at it through the lens of we would want to, let's say, acquire brands and create a portfolio, or this would be an extension of our flagship brands, kind of what you've seen in zero alcohol beers that have gotten popular?
It's an interesting one, and we've discussed it, and I've other players in the industry, I'm sure, have as well. What you've seen mostly is the emergence of what we would call new to world brands. They haven't stretched an existing big brand. You haven't seen Budweiser go into this space, right? Bud Light. I think mainly because of sensitivity around going into a space that's not federally legalized, and therefore taking a big brand like that there, they would see that there was risk associated with it. That doesn't mean that couldn't change. I think you'll see an extension on where the brands may make sense from how they're positioned in the minds of the consumer, right? When you mention Red Bull, you go, yeah, I could totally see that brand because of how it's positioned, whereas some others probably not. So it hasn't been done yet. A big brand you haven't seen break into this space. It's mostly been done through completely new brand entry. But okay, we keep a watching eye on it, because I think that will change.
What do you think, Kyle? Like, I know with cannabis is rescheduled, that's not legalizing it recreationally or federally. But do you think the alcohol industry is going to look at this space a lot differently if and when that, well, not if, it's going to happen, just a matter of when. But how much does that, I guess, shift, do you think, their approach towards all this once we see some federal rules start to shift here?
I guess the way I would say, I try and surround myself with smart people that I could ask those questions to. I'm actually in the screen right next to, I guess it's this way on my screen. I would say we're built to grow at scale that nobody else in the world right now is at our scale.
I think you're on mute.
At price, are at COGS that nobody else has. Okay. And so that just gives us the optionality, and we just want to be opportunistic. So I do think that, and I'll let, I shouldn't speak for the alcohol industry because I'm not part of it. Allison is the expert on that. I would just say, from the conversations I've had, from being a good listener, all eyes right now are certainly on cannabis. And we just want to make sure that as input material from California at scale. So if we wanted to do a deal with, you brought up Budweiser or Heineken or any of the other very successful companies, we actually could bring the amount of biomass that's necessary at a price that would be a very competitive input cost, meaning cheaper than anybody else. So I think we're built for this, and I would kind of defer that answer to, or the question, to Allison.
Yeah, fair enough. Allison, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think for for big alcohol, obviously a source of supply, ingredients, the fact that it's complex, right? When you can't transfer things across state lines and all those things has probably been the limitation for some of these big brands, because the idea of trying to create a beverage and extend a brand with those limitations is tricky. If that changes, then I think, that becomes, wow, the scale then becomes easier, and the go-to-market becomes much easier for big alcohol to look at it. So I think that's where it becomes very interesting.
Makes sense.
So then, Kyle, I mean, on a go-forward basis, because I've been curious to get you back on the program with watching the way the glass house has kind of been moving. And then on the press release, when you had announced the committee, you had mentioned looking at opportunities outside of your legacy market of California. Are you more so looking into, let's say, being an API manufacturer or being an input product moving forward to enterprise level partners versus a CPG that's selling flower and or potential cannabis products nationwide once regulations adhere? Or is it kind of both, or it's just in an exploratory phase right now from a business strategy standpoint?
So Anthony, great question. I get that question all the time privately. I would say, if you look at us kind of as a sun-kissed, I love the CPG that we can help, powered by Glasshouse, I think could become powerful, as long as the appellation of California continues to matter, which in this world it still matters quite a bit. That said, if the best option, for this brand for us is to be the quiet intel inside, we could certainly do that and would. Again, I think we would probably be both, but we do like our branding. But again, I think my short answer is we'll likely be both.
Okay. And then Allison, my next question for you is, I actually said this on Monday, and we talk about the licensing structure and the way that the cannabis industry has been built. Big alcohol luckily gets to operate within the 3-tier system with national regulation. Do you look at, or have you audited the industry and just been like, I cannot believe that this is how they've kind of built it to roll it out to scale from a national level? I mean, when you look at Kyle's business, it's built to where the puck is going down the road, where interstate commerce comes online, the walls eventually come down, and an ultimate legal market. But the way that it's functioning right now, from just the limited license, hyper fragmented market, I would have to assume a company like Heineken looking at it would be like, this is just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It's very messy, which I think is why, as we talked about in the beginning, which is why I think a lot of the big players have not extended a brand there, because it's like, how do you navigate that system?
How do you?
We're used to mass scale beer distributors too. Our distributors want mass and momentum, right? And that the way it's been built is sort of counter to that.
Very much so.
And once that changes, then I think it opens doors. But it is a very complex structure for a big corporate to navigate. Yeah.
Is there any indication that you think those days are going to happen, where we see full mass scale, and that we see interstate commerce? And we know, as to Anthony's point, this is where the puck is going. But you look at rescheduling, that is obviously the first domino effect, right, Kyle? But I think ultimately that if people are really going to see the true sales and size and scale of this industry, it's one day getting the interstate commerce coming to fruition and really giving this industry the opportunity that's day in its sun, which many people are hoping that day will come, right?
So if you look at Schedule 3, and this one I get asked all the time from investors and just my private, and this is just my perspective, so take it for what it is. There is no other Schedule 3 drug that has to be vertically integrated in one state. It can be shipped around the country. Now, does it need Tylenol with codeine? Does it need a special DEA, something from the federal government? Yeah, that's possible. But I do think it opens up channels quite quickly. And I think it might actually, my prediction is it's going to sneak up on people that all of a sudden cannabis is a legitimate industry, and they're going to go, wait a minute, these are New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ companies. Wait a minute, I'm starting to see them working with large companies like a Heineken or Altria or something like that.
Of course.
And I guess I would refer you to, all of a sudden you turn on the Super Bowl and there's DraftKings. All of a sudden I'm watching John Gruden's interview and he's got, one of the gambling sites on a helmet sitting in front of him. And all of a sudden it's become normal. And then you've got poly markets and things that all of a sudden just out of nowhere, they're completely legitimate. The NFL has embraced it and off we go. And I think that's likely going to happen here with cannabis too.
I hope, because when you think about it, you're right. Mark Cahotis was on yesterday and he's just like, my God, we need banking, right? And he was giving some great examples. He went into the OnlyFans model too, and think of some of the content creators there and they get banking. It's crazy. But yeah, we live in times where it's just like, update these laws already, and it's long overdue, especially when you look at Allison, over 70% of Americans, they want to see rescheduling happen. So again, you look at who's behind in all this. It seems to be one specific area, and that's Washington, D.C. Everywhere else, it seems like Americans are living in today's world as to where they view cannabis as where it is today and where it's going, right?
Yeah. And if you get sort of, I think the step with medicinal, then obviously move to recreational, like, big pharma will be super interested in this space, and, once you see that, and you turn up to your Walgreens and, you can buy some over-the-counter balm with, I think it will become part of consumers' lives. Like you mentioned, DraftKings. I mean, online gambling was always very, separate, but consumers now, it's integrated. They can, download an app. They can, it's become it's really become integrated, and gambling. And they're on, they're sponsoring teams, NFL, etc. That's a different game. That's when you sort of hit the big time in marketing on sponsorships and things like that.
And when you talk to your peers in the C-suites amongst other alcohol companies and just the industry at large, are they paying attention to the cannabis industry, or are we just assuming that it is important in the grand scheme of things? I mean, it hails in comparison from a revenue perspective to alcohol. I mean, do they take it seriously, and are they looking at it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, and spoken to all my peers, that it is being. It's often hard to get data on the extent of it, right? But it's not like we have on alcohol, but definitely tracking, the impact it's had, especially as states become legalized, what you see from a consumer behavior perspective. So I think, across alcohol, I've got colleagues in the spirits world too. Obviously I'm in the beer world, but in the spirits world, they definitely track it too. It's very much seen as part of the competitive set, that we look at.
Well, we keep talking about how the younger generation just doesn't drink anymore. And I'm assuming you guys are probably seeing a similar stats when it comes to that. But, without giving away conversations that happen in the boardroom, but what do you think are common things that do get brought up amongst executives when it is talking about the cannabis space right now?
I think the key thing is the degree to regulation. Like, what are there going to be more controls? The obviously the hemp derived beverages and the sort of system that's come that way, I think is seen as like, whoa, that it is very unregulated. Who's doing what? Certain distributors have certainly embraced it, have become very multi-beverage distributors. So typically beer distributors, may have only been in beer, but they've become much more multi-beverage. So moving where, the consumer trends are. I think a lot of the C-suite discussion is around regulation. And if they see a way to federalization, I think then that is seen as will be a big shift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With your capacity, one thing that people have been talking about is if the CBD program comes online, the pilot program with the government, but the hemp ban goes into effect, there's not going to be a lot of resources that are able to grow, let's say, the CBD biomass that could be distilled down into the input products that you would see going through those channels. Is that something that you guys have evaluated or at least talked about internally, potentially, for, let's say, picking up that slack and or capitalizing on the TAM of that potential pilot program if and when it rolls out?
So 100%. And, had some conversations this morning about that with some people outside of cannabis to discuss that exact, some of those potential opportunities coming down the pike. Everybody focused in on the $500 per Medicare user equals $30 billion. And what exactly does that mean? And so happily, we've been playing in this space for 10 years. So we've got some very interesting strains. We've got, a bomb that I know you mentioned you had Mark on yesterday. He now lives on the bomb. It works that well. So, yes, and I think we announced that Greenhouse 4, we basically went on a light CapEx and said, let's start putting some plants in the ground because in the very worst case, and everything I'm hearing is that Washington, D.C. is going to extend that November date on hemp. They don't have to, and we know how dysfunctional. All you do is watch last night's State of the Union to see how dysfunctional our country is, or our government is. But the bottom line is we're growing things for all zero THC. That would be Asia, to hemp, to novel cannabinoids, which we work with UC Berkeley. So, absolutely, we would very much like to need more biomass, and whatever need we have, we can grow it. It's all the same plant. It just manifests in a little bit differently.
So that's why you accelerated expansion to Greenhouse 2 and 4 then, correct?
Absolutely. When December 18th happened in the White House, with President Dr. Oz, we took note and we decided, like we usually do, be a little bit more aggressive, put our foot on the gas and go. So Greenhouse 2 right now is focused in on California. It has a California license. Greenhouse 4 has a hemp license.
Okay.
And we are going to evaluate the needs and we can add more. We have Greenhouse 3, and we're very tight in the cultivation community in Southern California. So if we need to add more to that, we certainly can.
I wanted to ask you one last thing, and this is an important one too. We always look at rescheduling and then with this language around FINRA when it comes to uplisting. If Schedule 3, once it does become official, what does that process look like from your side? Like, is there groundwork that's being taken place that as far as, potentially uplisting when that opportunity presents itself? Because I think the rescheduling process it's huge. It's monumental, but I think people want to have some sort of direction, especially from an investor standpoint as well, is if we're going to have some sort of direction and update on the banking side and the uplisting side. That's massive.
So I don't always follow what my peers in the industry say. I usually get it second and third hand, unless I'm in the same room with Boris or Kim or, Ben doesn't seem to ever be in those rooms, but but all of that said, I would say I would be surprised, and I'm going to try and say this since we're a publicly traded company, I'd be surprised if every publicly traded company in U.S. cannabis is not having those conversations with the NYSE or NASDAQ or both, and would say, go to ChatGPT and see what the listing requirements are beyond FINRA. Just look and see to see who would qualify. Many, I think, is what you're going to land on. And then also realize, just like when you talk about alcohol or tobacco, how would they want it to land with alcohol or tobacco? Alcohol would want to see a 3-tier system because that's what they know. And the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are both in the business of listing companies and probably don't want to miss out on an opportunity. So that you might guess that there could be a level of FOMO. So if that doesn't sort of help people that are investing in the industry to sort of with some insight, I think my guesstimation, again, just Kyle's perspective, is that once Schedule 3 is official, you will see companies uplisted.
Okay. It's very telling. And I think that's great to know. And more importantly, I was trying to push Mark a little bit yesterday too. And it's just like, would you be surprised at all if there's not some sort of direction about banking that coincides with the rescheduling announcement? But you think there's probably going to be something, and at least that's what we hope for, without giving away the farm. But hopefully that is indeed the case. And if so, then obviously we're in a totally different situation than what we are in now, right?
Imagine you're the president of one of those exchanges and you don't move, and the other one scoops up the entire industry in one swoop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what your board would be asking you? So again, I'm not, just like I'm not in Allison's position, I'm also not in the position of those NASDAQ and NYSE, but all the companies that you guys talk to, we're all banked.
Yeah.
We're all banked. We're banked, and we've been for years. So there's ways to make this work.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people understand that. And it's just like, it's amazing when you get a little bit of direction from Washington as to how things can move quickly. But I think that's what we've been yelling for a number of years. And Allison, this industry, it's pretty simple and easy to figure out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'll let you guys go, but one last thing. Next time Mark Cahotis is on, can you just tell him to like be more honest and just get to the point? That's what a personality this guy has, right?
Is there anybody in any way, shape, or form related to cannabis more entertaining than Mark?
I get it. Like, he was talking to me this morning. He's just like, the feedback I got is everyone's reaction when they see Anthony and I's reaction with some of the stuff that he said. But I hope we didn't have too many people from Detroit watching us yesterday, because he had some good comments about that, or some interesting comments, but we'll just leave it at that. But Allison, great having you on.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Appreciate the feedback on some of the feedback that you're seeing on the alcohol side. And Kyle, great as far as this committee. And I appreciate obviously the direction and insight on what we can expect as far as not only rescheduling, but some uplisting language that's taking place too, and how a lot of companies are probably having a lot of those conversations already. So onwards and upwards, and more importantly, let's keep in touch. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. And
Thanks
please make sure you guys, one of these days, we'd love to see a Dales report from the largest cultivation on the planet.
We are going out west. One of our clients, Big Mike from Advanced Nutrients, they're going to have us out there in April. So we're going to kill a lot of birds with one stone when we're out there. So we'll make sure that we make the trek down to see you as well. How's that sound?
We would love that. And yet another entertaining figure in the space. Big Mike is, he's up there, not as entertaining as Mark, in my opinion, but he's pretty darn close.
Oh, Mark's great because we've got a bunch of people that love him. We've got a bunch of people that hate him. But the best thing is none of them can look away when he's on. So it's good having Mark on.
Yeah.
He's our industry's Howard Stern when Howard Stern was that exact guy.
Oh yeah. It's like, what would you rather do? Like, invest in this space where it's fun, or move to Detroit and view septic tanks? So that's what it was.
Allison, thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Great to speak to you guys. Okay.
Right.
Take care. Bye.
All the best.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
Adios, Anthony.
Talk soon.
All right.
All right. We're going to get into GTI's latest earnings, because I'm just hearing that Ben beat earnings. Crushed it. Before we do that, quick word from our friends over at freepouch.com.
Hey everyone, with so much going on in the world right now, it's tough to keep up to everything that is indeed going on. From what's the latest in news, or what should I be following in the markets, to what should I be consuming on social media. The amount of information that goes on and on and on, it's endless. And when that happens, stress can definitely start to build up. And for someone like me, especially at my age, heck, I start losing my hair. And when that happens, I start questioning myself. Do I still have it? And am I focusing on the task at hand? And that's why I lean to free nicotine pouches. It keeps me focused. It makes me feel clear with clarity. I have all the confidence in the world, like I'm 23 years old again, and I have a head full of hair. Oh yeah, baby. So if you want to own your own edge and stay sharp without lighting anything up, then log on to freepouch.com right now and save 20% by using the promo code TDR20 and get 20% off your next purchase. freepouch.com.
All right, let's get back in here, locked in here on Traded Black, presented by freepouch.com for this segment. All right, let's go into GTI's numbers. I don't have a lot of them in front of me. I don't understand this correctly. Like, say Q4 revenue came in at $311.1 million, up 5.7% year over year. Is that correct?
That's what it says.
Quarter end cash position, $274.3 million. GAAP net income for Q4 was 83.2 million, translating to 36 cents basic per 35-cent diluted EPS. So all in all, as you said, he crushed it, and looks like another great earnings for GTI, which is no surprise, right?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I mean, this is a really good earnings report. This is pretty damn impressive from Ben. I mean, growth. They got a bunch of cash. They got GAAP net income, normalized EBITDA of $100 million for the quarter, 32.2% of revenue. I mean, that's great. I don't know what the EBITDA or the net income is year over year in terms of growth, whether it was a growing metric or a declining metric. But I mean, at the same time, he repurchased $14 million worth of stock in the queue for 2025 annual, 1.2 billion in revenue, 3.4% growth year over year, $300 million in cash flow from operations. What is Mitch? I'm trying to find the part where Mitch said they separated from rhythm.
They separated from rhythm.
I'm not seeing.
Can you let us know? I'm just looking online.
This is the problem with doing a live read of the earnings.
I'm just typing it in right now. What'd you think of Kyle's feedback on some of the stuff?
I mean, there was a lot of info.
There's a lot. We already knew
there's a lot of info and good takeaways. Strategic separation of hemp cannabis businesses and investment in Rhythm Inc. for federal compliance and growth potential. That's smart. I got to look more into that. And to be honest, the numbers, there was a certain amount of tax liability that Ben shifted from Green Thumb over to Rhythm with the brands going over there, because there were certain things that the brands couldn't deduct thanks to 280E that they could deduct on the Rhythm side, which might have also given them a little bit of boost from growth. But separating a strategic,
obviously because of the ban that's coming later this year.
I think that's.
Did you also hear that from Kyle? Many people believe in Rhode Washington there's going to be a delay pertaining to that.
No, he said there's going to be an extension.
Or extension. Well, extension delay. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's very confusing who you speak to, because on one side it's no, like it's not really, it's going anywhere. Like this is going to become law. But then if there's
that's the first I've heard of the ban getting extended.
Me too.
Kyle's usually pretty good with information.
Yeah.
But that's the first I've heard of that. Okay. I cannot confirm or deny that. I mean, part of me hopes that it doesn't get extended. But I wouldn't put it past Washington.
Well, when you think about this pilot program and all the things that are going to be outlined with, what they want to implement with Medicare, Medicaid, Commonwealth Project, all those sorts of things with CBD related, it just seems like a very gray area for this to be extended. I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to work out. And I don't want
to. This is where a conference call would have been advantageous, because I'd love to hear commentary from Ben and Anthony on the strategic separation of the hemp and cannabis businesses and their investment in Rhythm. That color is going to be interesting. Like I said, I mean, Kim's conference call tomorrow is going to be, I think, very informative.
Yeah.
She's probably going to talk about their hemp business. She's probably going to talk about Florida adult use. I'm assuming she's probably going to have pretty damn good numbers as well, judging by GTI's print. And that'll be one that I'm listening to. Boris as well. Like I said, Boris reports after the bell. Expecting to hear a lot of commentary from Boris too.
Yeah. Quick reminder, he'll be on the podcast on Monday. So that'll be a great conversation that we plan to have with him. But again, as you said, truly pre-market tomorrow, post-market after the bell with Curaleaf. So two big behemoths in the space, and good to see that GTI led things off on the right foot. But we're starting to see this happen again and again and again, and it's the separation of the big companies versus everybody else in the space. And this shouldn't be a surprise anymore. This is just going to continue this direction. And give Ben Kovler his credit and the team that he's built, because they continue to lead in this space right now, and that's just the reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so all eyes on Trulieve and Curaleaf tomorrow. When does some of the other notable names like Terrascend, Jushi?
I don't think Terrascend reports until like March 12th.
Cresco. When's Cresco?
I don't know.
Jungle
like
Job.
I said, the only reason I still go to Alan Brockstein's website. Cresco reports on March 5th.
Okay.
Ascend reports on March 12th. Curaleaf, like I said, tomorrow after the bell. Trulieve is tomorrow before the bell. Grown Rogue. Oh, Terrascend reports on the 12th.
Okay.
And like I was right. And then Grown Rogue reports on the 31st. That's Mark Cahotis' new favorite name to bash on the show. Chicago Atlantic the 12th, and then SNDL on the 12th as well. I don't see any others.
Terrascend's March 12th. Okay. Like you said, cash flow from operations, $90 million for GTI.
Yeah. GTI crushed it.
Revenue of 1.2 billion for the year.
GTI is going to look very, very good in a post 280E world.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've had a lot of people ask questions, but once rescheduling is signed off, okay, I'm curious to see, like, does this industry get re-rated right away? Like, how do you see that playing out? No. Takes like they need direction on uplisting. Like, you don't see that happening. It's going to
you're going to have to get past the lawsuits. Once the lawsuits are done and Schedule 3 is firm, I think you're going to start to see the industry re-rate.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with uplisting.
Yeah. It's the lawsuits. All right. Good to know. Secondly, and again, a reminder to people, and we said this yesterday, but I did have people reach out to me again today. Why are people surprised that President Trump did not mention anything during the State of the Union address yesterday?
Did he mention Arctic Mexico?
I don't think so. But man, that was a long State of the Union address.
I watched 30 minutes of it and I had
an hour and 47 minutes. But a lot of fighting, a lot of shouting going on, and a lot of fabrication in some cases. But you know, at the end of the day, I don't know what to think of these State of the Union addresses anymore. It's pretty painful.
Just grandstanding.
Yeah.
It's grandstanding. It was him throwing the Democrats under the bus, him throwing Biden under the bus, and just him basically just grandstanding.
Yeah. Longest State of the Union address on record, 1 hour and 40 minutes. It does in some ways. I didn't think he'd go that long, but what do I know? Jason writes, Verano. When do they actually report?
Verano's not on Alan's website. I can't be bothered to look it up right now. We'll have that information for you. I just Google it.
All right, you're off tomorrow. I'm trying to get Anthony Cogniglio and Adam Stetner on at the same time. We'll go over some of the numbers of some of these companies, but also some of the trends that they're going to be looking for during this earnings season. So that'll be going on tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Gretchen, I have to call you back. You tried calling me earlier today. My apologies. I will try to reach back out to you after the show here. And all in all, I think the big takeaway here, especially from Kyle Kazan here today, is you can really understand where this company is thinking that, hey, yes, we focused solely on the California market, which is why we are where we are today. But you can really understand, to what you said, where the puck is going as far as whereas Glasshouse business, you know, this whole CBD world as well, and fast tracking everything into greenhouse number 4. You can see how they're prepping themselves for the next stage of this industry in a post rescheduling world, which is encouraging. And more importantly, too, just sort of the direction he gave a little bit there based on the whole uplisting language, and if that coincides with rescheduling, and how a lot of these companies have already had conversations, which is no surprise. And I'm sure that you already knew that as well.
Yep. That I did.
Jushi, March 5th. There you go. Stay locked in, everybody. 3 milligram watermelon. Stayed focused here today. Freepouch.com. Again, if you want to save $20, use the promo code TDR20, and in your first order, you can save $20. So do that now if you get a chance. Log on to Freepouch, FREPouch.com. All right, this has been
EBITDA was actually down year over year. Yeah, I got to read more into this. I'll have a whole write up on it tomorrow for the newsletter.
Yes. And the biggest position in YOLO's ETF is MSOS. If you want to learn more, log on to advisorshares.com. Again, YOLO, MSOS.
Verano's tomorrow?
Is it tomorrow?
Huh. So Curaleaf, Verano, and Trulieve. It's a big print for Verano.
Big day.
I mean, they've got a refi that they have to get done. I mean, people are going to be curious to see what's going on in Florida, and people are going to be curious to see the numbers coming out of Verano. So I'll be looking forward to that tomorrow too.
Mitch, you're right. Democrats didn't stand for most of the dead children's parents that were honored. However, as you said, yes, there was 3 people that were caught sleeping at the State of the Union address last night. But it's a long time for a lot of old people in Congress at almost 11 o'clock at night, listening for an hour and 47 minutes. I'd have a hard time too.
They threw their own. I don't want to get into politics.
Yeah, let's just steer clear of that. Yeah. Stay down the middle of the road. All right, so we're off to a good start in earnings season. We got some good dialogue here from Kyle today. So again, everybody, stay patient. Hopefully we get some news relatively soon. I know a lot of you people are asking, is it imminent? And again, we heard news obviously earlier this week that this was going to happen. It should be. I don't know the time, but things are moving in the right direction and rumors are hot right now. So that would be really, really nice if we got some sort of announcement that coincides with some great earnings reports here in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, stay locked in, and we'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the latest TDR Traded Black podcast presented by Flowhub. AV, enjoy your day, and we'll see you guys all back here tomorrow at 4.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names in the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.